Greetings, my friend. The future is something that we are all interested in, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. Future events such as these will affect you in the future, my friend. Today we are joined by an ancient structure known locally as Leo Garcia. Thank you, my friend, and God help us in the future. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's if you do get a chance, definitely see Plan 9. It's
Planet 9 is that
Plan 9.
Plan 9, yeah.
Plan 9 from Outer Space is the originally it was going to be called Grave Robbers from Outer Space, but the producers were like, that's a little, it's a little negative, and and one of the producers who was literally just a money ticket.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bunch of ideas for and then that was one of his ideas. Why not Plan 9? It was, and I'm not getting it exactly right, but it was something like that, where the guy was just like, how about just Plan 9? And Edward was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then they set it out, and he put it into the script, and he's like, actually, that sounds great.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. And it didn't at all, but he was so, again, he was driven. He was just like,
Mm-hmm.
we got it. Cut. We got it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It worked because we recorded it already.
Right,
he was so weird about that.
It sounds like they left out the E.T., like Planet 9.
No.
It also seems, and every time, and as you talk about it, I see all those scenes from Ed Wood with those, and the flying saucer and the fishing pole and the wire.
Set it on fire and everything.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, well, it was...
It's a way to make a movie, I got.
And, well, so...
Making movies, that's what we do.
So Plan 9 is because that's the 9th plan to take over the world, is resurrecting the dead and having them do all the work for the aliens. That was the 9th plan.
How's it revealed that there were 8 more before that?
Again, he wrote it into one of the monologues because the producer wanted it to be the name of the movie, and so it doesn't make any sense to the rest of the movie. It's just in that one. He's just like, here's a little bit of, but that's why. And it's in one of, in fact, that guy has one of the quoted as one of the worst and best lines in any movie, because it's just this run on just 2 minutes of just he had a thesaurus in his hand. He was just writing shit out, and he's just saying, he's da, 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 and he's just it's like he's singing, and then the sentence is finally over, and you have no idea what he said.
And who's saying it?
Some guy that was probably the guy's one of the guys was his dentist.
Oh, okay.
Half of the actors weren't actors. They were literally just people who owed him money, or he owed them money. He worked every angle he couldn't. The main actress was somebody he met in a bar. It's in Ed Wood. He meets her in the bar. She says something obscure, like I would love to make movies, and he's like. And he sees that she orders an expensive drink, and he's like, you would like to make movies, huh? Well, I make movies, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, great. And he is assuming that she's rich automatically. So he offers her a role, the main role. Mm-hmm. And then they're into shooting, and the guy's looking for rent for the studio. And he goes up in the middle of the scene. He's like, cut. All right. Hey, honey, we need to pay the bill. And she's like, okay, go ahead, pay the bill. We're doing a scene here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's $50,000. We need your end of the bill. And she's like, I spent all the rest of my money at the bar that night on that drink. She was like, I was so happy you gave me an opportunity to be in a movie. I was broke.
Yeah.
And that's how that movie was made, where it was just pieced together with whatever you got.
So you're a big Ed Wood fan?
Oh, I fucking love that guy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I had to be. My dad was one of the 5 movies he had when he divorced my mom. He was sitting there with 5 movies, and that was one of them. It was that, a recording of the Tick that my uncle sent us from TV, like with the commercials on it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Titanic he had, I think.
But Ed Wood, that's a good film. Yeah, it was great.
I like the guy more. The movie's pretty good, but
You
the
mean the
guys,
real actor?
yeah,
Oh.
the director, yeah, Ed Wood is
yeah.
my like the guy I'm interested. The
Yeah.
movie's pretty good. You know, Bill Murray's hilarious in it. It's funny.
He's the man, the director who also liked sweaters made out of Angora wool.
He made Glen or Glenda,
Right.
and that was all about the transgender. It was the first like big movie about that, and it's so funny. He like saw like the ad for it in the paper, something like that. And he's like, I want to tell my story. It was supposed to be like a completely different picture about transgender. The community was supposed to be like, I don't think it was supposed to be negative, but it was not supposed to be what he put out.
Yeah.
And again, like the producers and everybody was like, what is this? What's all the Angora and everything? What's happening? And he was just like, he hired me. Like he didn't know what to do.
It's also before the whole language or understanding of what trans was, but he was sort of a cross-dresser rather than a transgendered person, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, he was actually one of the first people to distinctualize that, and people were around him were going, you're gay, right?
Saying,
and he was like,
I just like
I love women.
Yeah, I just like wearing these clothes.
And he would say stuff like, it makes me feel closer to them. But he had trauma from his dad. His mom used to dress him as a woman. Like,
I didn't realize
that was part of the thing.
Did she want a boy, and so she dressed him as a
something like that?
She wanted a girl, so she dressed him as a girl.
It was something like that. I forget exactly, but yeah, it was something like that. And it was trauma, and he dealt with it so consciously that he not only did he start making movies as like therapy, but he was one of the only people in a place like Hollywood in the time. Everybody was coming up to him like, so what's the deal? Like, you don't like women? Like, that was the first thing people would say to him because they don't get it. They were like, and he was able to be like, no, there's a spectrum here.
Right.
I'm right here. Mm-hmm. And it's fine. Everything's fine. And this is going to be a hit movie. Mm-hmm. Like it was kind of.
How'd it go? Was it a hit?
It was the worst at the time. It was the worst movie ever made. It was,
and that's why it's world famous today.
And it is horrible. I've watched that too. That's a very bad movie. It's not watchable though. Plan 9's watchable.
Yeah.
This one's just him getting it out. You know, he's and getting to dress in Angora.
Is Elvira in Cloud 9? Or not Cloud 9. What is it?
Plan 9? Yeah, she's.
I'm in Cloud 9. No, Plan 9. Yes, she is.
Yeah, she plays one of the resurrected dead.
So they do a whole vampira thing out of the cemetery and all that.
It's so funny. She wasn't vampire anymore, so they couldn't use that. They dressed her like that though. And
why was that vampira owned by someone?
I don't remember if it was her or maybe somebody owned. I forget what the thing was, but she's not vampire in it. She's a character in the movie. She was the commissioner's wife or something, she was the old man's wife, which is so funny because the old man, he's an old man, and she's still young, and the explanation was that she died and you stop aging once you die, but like the scene was 2 weeks ago, and their age difference is explained, but it's not explained time-wise in the movie. Everything is so. It's so pieced together.
What, did she wear her busty black gown?
Yeah, she was a vampire, but she wasn't. Again,
the commissioner's wife, vampira.
Yeah, like Bela Lugosi in the movie. He's not Dracula, and he's not even a vampire.
Oh, but he comes out of a coffin, doesn't he?
This is the thing. He used all of the things. He was trying to use those popular things to get somewhere. But he couldn't use those things because he didn't have any, rights. So he takes this guy, makes him a character that dies, so he can have him come out of a coffin and have a cape on for some reason. Like it's so. Again, there's no rationale behind it, but story-wise, he'll like add in just like one little line in there to like make it make sense, and that just again, I think that those little things. The fact that he cared about making the movie structure-wise and everything made it something that, like, Glen or Glenda was his first movie. That's why it's not watchable. It's horrible. It's really, really hard to watch. Plan 9 was, he was in it. This was his passion project at the time, and he was really. But then there's, Tor Johnson walks through the doorway.
Yeah, the big the big round guy, right?
Yeah, and he's bigger than the doorway. He bumps into it, but it's a stage, and it's a fake doorway, so the whole room shakes, and that's in Ed Wood too. And the guy's like, you want to cut? You want to do another? He's like, oh, that's natural.
Yeah,
people bump into things all the time. Shit. And that explanation into that like delusion, I think, made it something really kind of beautiful to watch for a certain group of people. Anyway, I mean, people who like Plan 9 really like Plan 9.
Yeah, people who who are cinephiles love that stuff too.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And him.
Yeah,
because he had that weird, unending drive that I really. I have it in reserves, but I find it sometimes. He had like this, faucet he just turned on and off. He was very driven.
Have you made movies yourself?
Not really, no.
No,
I've been in them
as an actor.
Yeah, but I don't. It's funny. I stopped acting. The biggest role I got was when I stopped acting. I did the bad guy in a movie that's on Amazon. It was really bad.
Is that the cowboy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
What's the name of the film?
Cattle Farmer.
Cattle Farmer.
No offense to anybody who
It
made
got
it,
distribution. That's great.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Played in
it's
festivals.
it's kind of easy to get on Amazon. You just have to pay.
Really? I didn't know you could pay on that. I don't know.
You get your film on Amazon.
Yeah.
You just
But I
there's
mean,
nothing. There was no like reason why we got on other than the guy had the money to get it on. It's a really bad movie.
Full-length feature film.
Yeah, it's a feature film, and
you are on the poster.
Well, yeah, and I had a fun time doing it. We all had a great time doing it. It was but we did it we did it cheap, and that was why it messed up. We did it in 6 days. We should have spent a month doing it. We spent something like, I forget, not a lot of money. We should have spent twice as much money, really.
Like, what was the budget?
I don't remember. I want to say something like $9,000.
$9,000. That's good.
It's great.
That means you didn't get paid as an actor.
Well, no. When I think we got like food and stuff. But that doesn't matter. That's not what I mean. What I mean is time-wise, like he should have paid for more time on set because we were rushing everything. We were grouping things together, and everything got cluttered, and that's why the movie is the way it is. The first 20 minutes of the movie, the sound is off.
Yeah.
It's terrible. The sound is terrible for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We should have re-recorded, if anything, and like dubbed it over or something.
There's a budget. When you have $9,000, you don't have time to do a lot of re-recording. This is like this guy Ed Wood. Who didn't have time. You just keep going, move it.
Definitely, and the fact that it got put out and the fact that he did it, I respect that. Overall, that's really that. Like I wanted to put it up on. There's a big stupid story behind that, but I wanted to have a showing of it. I was gonna put it at a theater and have the cast and our family come watch it on a big screen. That would be really cool. COVID happened and there was a dispute.
COVID, that damn COVID, it slowed up so much and stopped so much.
You want to blame COVID? That's fine, but
we could have been big stars. That
some people
COVID.
Flourished in COVID though.
Who did?
People who realized that they could work from home and they're like, wow, I don't have to leave the house. Oh shit. And then they're like, this is exactly what I always had to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people.
And coming out of COVID, those people who realized they could work at their home, they never went back to work.
Exactly.
Many of them.
A lot of them, yeah.
And
there was like they were at home.
They realized their value.
That happened too. Yeah. No, that was a big portion of that. That people were like, fuck you guys, you don't need me there. Like like you want me. You can have me from here. Yeah, like that's a wild thing that happened too. I forgot there was a big portion of that. But a lot of people, they needed to be home. Like they were like, finally, I get to do my job.
Yeah.
And be able to, I can.
And be able to do it in my pajamas. I don't even have to get dressed.
Well, and a lot of people did better at their job because you can take a nap, or you can have your dog just sitting there while you're doing taxes. You're just doing the taxes or whatever. But your dog's sitting there.
Yeah.
Now I just did now I did a third more because Johnny's sitting here with me. Like, I feel like that's a.
What were you doing during COVID?
I went to Austin.
creating stuff? Were you?
I went to for comedy. That's what I did. That's when I left. There was no work here. I got laid off.
Stand up?
Yeah, I went for stand. That was at the time. That was right when it was blowing up. Like 12 or 14 comedians all had moved there. Big comedians. 5 or 6 of them were like real. Like I loved them, and I was really happy. I ended up meeting a couple of the people that I moved there because of Ron White, Duncan Trussell. I worked for Tom Segura. Great. That was worth it. Moving there.
Did you start their shows? What's that called when you start a show?
Opening for them? No, I didn't do anything like that.
Did you do any comedy?
I did a little bit.
Stand-up?
I did a little bit while I was there. Not as much as I wanted to, but I was so terrified that I went to a lot of open mics. But I was always happy when I didn't get called. There's a lot of like bucket pulls and stuff like that. But I did go to Kill Tony, which is one of the biggest stand-up shows in the country. And I ended up getting called. And man, it's really, really bad. I learned so much though.
Yeah. Why did you do it in the first place? Why comedy?
Because my grandmother always emphasized the importance of laughing. She was she had psychosis in her family, and she was always really worried about her mental capacity to keep it together. And she had a great imagination, and she was very much like a hermit. She just didn't need to be anywhere. If she left the house, it was to go to a thrift store and find a cool little trinket, bring it home, and sit with. And she was very but she absolutely she emphasized the importance of laughing as a survival tool next to food, because of how fucked up the world is, and how crazy people are. If you're gonna live here, if you're not laughing, it's gonna be really hard.
It is hard.
And
when
she
you
just
don't laugh, when you don't laugh.
She layered that as an emphasis on my life. And then I was doing background work for, it was probably like The Deuce or something like that. And my friend Atiba, he's a stand-up comedian. He's listening to one of my really traumatic, fucked up stories from childhood, and I'm telling him, and I'm laughing while I'm telling it. It's a really messed up story. And he's like, so you do stand-up then? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you sound like you're a stand-up comedian telling this story. It sounds like you tell it on stage. I was like, no, I don't, but that's great. That means I tell the story well, I guess, right? He's like, well, if you're not a stand-up comedian, from all what I've heard about you and how the spectrum of things you've done and all this stuff, you should at least try stand-up, because you might really enjoy it. And then you might get good at it, but you might really enjoy it, and it might really be something you love.
Where do you get your material from?
Here, right? Just now.
I mean,
seriously, everywhere. Almost all my material is from instances of just like last night I wrote down I got too high with my ex-girlfriend. And
was this at your hotel, or did
no,
you
I
visit her?
went down to San Diego, and I got partied out. It doesn't happen very often anymore because I don't party anymore. But we were just smoking weed, and I got way too high, and I was fine until she swerved in her car a little. She
God,
got
she
out
was
of
driving.
Well, she was.
You
she
were
was
driving high.
No, she was.
Do not do that.
She was fine. She was fine? She was fine. She swerved out of the way of somebody, and it was like one swerve too many for how jumbled I was, and I just my little brothers have a joke from the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Remember when they're smoking in the library, and one of them coughs, and what's his name? He's got the glasses on. He's like, hey man, chicks can't hold their smoke, man. They call people who can't they can't handle smoking, they call them chicks because of that movie, and it makes my mom laugh so much. And I was chicks last night. I couldn't hold my smoke.
Is that where chicks comes from? That
I don't know what that is. They say that.
Who's they?
My little brothers.
Oh, your little brothers.
Yeah, that's just a little
chicks.
They make fun of their father because he doesn't smoke very much, and when he does,
Oh, he's a chick.
Sorry, I just called him out on that. But anyway, watching this fucking show, yeah.
So last night you were making jokes because you are, or that's what the joke's about.
No, I get instances like that where I was too high. It happened. And then afterwards, I'm like, I was fine, and I'm talking to her. I'm like, and I was realizing how high I was just before, and I looked at her and I went, I don't know. It doesn't happen very often, but I was a little melty, you know. There was a little too much water in my clay, you know. And she started laughing when I said that, and it wasn't funny, but it was accurate. She knew the feeling. She was like, too much water in the clay. I know that feeling. Ugh. Like it was just accurate. And when I said it, and the context of where I said it, it was funny enough that because I don't write jokes really, because
you
I'm
don't
not
write them down. How do you?
No. I'm sorry. I don't write. I write all of them down because I don't have a good memory. I don't write structured jokes like, you know, this guy goes into the bar and the bartender says this. It's all more like Andy Kaufman or like that kind of comedy. It's not. I'm not good enough at comedy yet to be writing jokes anyway. I tried. All of my jokes are really, really bad, and they'll maybe get there eventually. I keep them all. I have them to work on. I have one joke that works, but it's not very funny to almost anybody but people who are bartenders in these situations. The joke is a bunch of young Marines walk into a bar. The bartender goes, "Oh fuck." That's the joke. Nobody gets it but bartenders who work in towns where there's a port or like where there's Marines coming in.
Yeah.
That's the only person the joke's for. But that's the only joke that that I've written joke wise that's gotten a laugh.
So, but the guy when you wrote that,
it's not
story,
a good joke either.
But when you wrote that story about when you were a kid, that really fucked up story you were talking about, and then your friend said that's funny. So do you draw from your own personal narrative, like from as a child?
Almost all of it, yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, almost all of it, and some of it's from recent stuff, but a lot of it's just childhood stuff.
And what kind of kid were you?
I was friends with a lot of really, really bad kids, and I was friends with a lot of really, really good kids, and I was right in the middle.
You were right in the middle?
Right in the middle.
I was kind of like that, too.
Yeah, I was
like friends with all the popular kids, and then I hung out with all the bad kids.
So I wasn't friends with the popular kids, but I was friends with a couple of the popular girls, because I was just... I don't know. It was my hair.
Were so cute.
It was my hair.
Yeah,
they loved my hair. But that was
how
it.
Far did you go? How old were you until you were a virgin? When were you no
virgin?
Longer virgin?
17.
So you waited till you were 17?
I didn't wait. That's when I got to have sex.
Oh, you weren't having you?
No, that's when I got to. I didn't wait. No. I was.
Well, what happened when you were 14 out on the pier?
What?
Didn't you live on the beach somewhere?
Hamilton Beach.
Don't they have a boardwalk?
The boardwalk is Rockaway. It's out farther. Say this is Queens, and then this is the Hudson, and this is Jamaica Bay here, and then Long Island comes out this way, and Rockaway comes like around Queens this way.
Pretty.
Rockaway is this cusp of right on the ocean, and that boardwalk is phenomenal. It's even nicer now that Sandy destroyed the old one. That was crazy. Seeing the boardwalk was in the street.
But that's where you used to hang out, certainly when you were 14 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hang out with the bad guys or the good guys out there?
Both. Whoa, a lot. One of my worst and most influential memories of taught me what I was doing wrong is snorting Vicodin in the Getty bathroom across the street from Beach Channel. The Getty bathroom.
How old were you?
For the people who went to Beach Channel, you know how bad the Getty bathroom was.
How old were you?
Probably 15.
Say 15.
16, probably something
and
like that.
you were still a virgin until you were 17.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. Was it a good experience, that 17-year-old experience?
I was at Starbucks.
No way. In the coffee house?
No, on their balcony, but still, it was at Starbucks.
That's fun.
That's pretty interesting.
Did it last?
No, it did not.
Was just fun?
It was,
17-year-old fun?
It was losing my virginity. How much fun it usually is, I guess. I don't know.
Lots of fun. I can tell you that. You only lose it once. I was a good time. Anyway,
I was probably happier than I could have been at all otherwise. I don't know. I just remember the fact that she was way cooler than I was. She was like a little bit older, but she was like
She was like
she was
18,
she no she
19,
was she was
20?
like she was I think she was 17 too, but she was like
Oh.
at the end of she was like almost a year older than me, and I was 17. But she was like she was hanging out with people in their 20s since she was like 14, and she was trouble too. She liked to get into trouble, and she liked to be risky, and that's what I liked about her.
When did
know,
you
it was
start
very,
doing your artwork? Like, is that around the same
I
age?
got into middle school for art. I've been drawing since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Middle school, there was I think it was called the Magnet Program. I think that was.
That's for the smart kids, right?
It was for people with
Special skills.
A specific focus. Mine was art, so I don't think smart had anything to do with it. But talent was something because you had to audition, you had to build a portfolio as a middle schooler.
Right.
So I didn't do it. My dad did. You know,
dad?
and my mom. They put together this portfolio. I wish I could find that. That would be so cool. But
Did you lose that in the flood, maybe?
Probably, most likely.
don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh, I know I'm asking you a lot of questions. That's because it's an opportunity to find out a lot about you. So I want to know your grandmother that you were talking about, your mom's mom or your dad's mom?
My mom's
the
mother.
The woman who brought comedy into your life,
Yeah. I barely knew my dad's parents. I visited them like once a year. Flew out to California like once a year, but I was so young that I didn't realize to appreciate anything like that. Like I visited them, and then one day they were gone. You know, and I didn't know them at all. Like if I had any kind of thing to change in my life, that would be one of the only things I would change, is I would have visited them more, because I just didn't realize. I didn't realize how old they were. I didn't realize any of that stuff, you know. And that was also when they were old, and there was problems with health and stuff like that. I was like 14, 15, and 16, and I was so in my own world and so angry at everything. I didn't have any room to have things like worry about family or anything. That kind of stuff was when my dad was like going to visit them. I don't even know if I registered it that they were sick. Like I don't know. I have no idea, because it wasn't. I was under the boardwalk. Yeah, you know. That's where I was. Unfortunately.
No. Boardwalk is a good place to be. It's fun. There's ocean air. There's water.
We always said
beautiful 17-year-old girls.
Yeah, they shouldn't have put a boardwalk next to the beach channel, next to a high school. What are you guys doing? What do you expect us to not go to the boardwalk? Come on,
but see,
it's a block away.
But you come from a very unique part of the world. Part of New York.
It's beautiful.
There's not many places like that, and so you have a high school. When you're on the water, the only place you can put a boardwalk is where it was put.
Oh yeah,
right?
No, that was a nice place for that school too, because it used to be a big oceanography school, and so it was perfect for that. It was right on the water, and it was right on the ocean. Yeah, and man, they had a great oceanography program there, like really high end, like one of the bigger ones in the city. I'm pretty sure. I believe. I don't
I lived in New York from 82 to 90, 91, but Manhattan, and the only time I got anywhere near where you were is when I went to, is it Long Island?
Yeah.
Long Island.
That's what Rockaway turns into, Long Island.
Yeah, right eventually. But it was gorgeous. And I was working with Steve Buscemi. He was an actor at the time working at La Mama, where I was.
You were telling me about that place, yeah.
And I worked with John Jezerin, and he had did some shooting on Long Island. Is that what it is? Like, why am I thinking Staten? What's Staten Island?
Staten Island's like it's like in between Manhattan and like Jersey and Queens. It's like in this weird the Hudson.
But it's not Long Island, right?
No,
it's not where all the big beautiful houses
No, that's
are.
Long Island, and Staten Island's more like it's kind of like half of it's like kind of white trashy, and half of it's like really rich, and those two worlds mix very much. There's a lot of mixture. I knew one of the guys from there that when he went to Beach Channel, he was dirty, like rough and tumble like ghetto kid, but he came from like a really rich family. I saw pictures of him years later after high school. And he's got like a pink polo on. He's standing there with his family, and we're like, that's. I'm not gonna say his name. I'm gonna embarrass him, but like that's that guy. Like,
Yeah.
That's the same guy. And some people at Beach Channel knew because they knew if he was from Staten Island. He might be part of that group, that weird mixing. Staten Island is not respected a lot in New York. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
It's kind of. Some people love it though.
Yeah,
Some
no,
people
Long Island was
absolutely
great.
love
It was beautiful. They
And
had
Long
white
Island
beaches.
No, Long Island is beautiful.
And
Long Island.
the house was owned by the architect White. And his great granddaughter was in our group.
There's
and
some
so
unbelievable
we got in this
houses
huge
out there.
house. Unbelievable.
Yeah. No, they're
It was,
crazy.
like,
They're
amazing.
I wouldn't own a house out there because all the storms and stuff like that. But man, they're beautiful.
But you were right at the storm, the foot of the storm, where you are. But it's the same
technically,
air.
it's inside. Technically, we were lucky because we're inside of Long Island. Long Island's on the outside of us, and then we're in the inside of it. We're on the bay, not the ocean.
Yeah.
Really lucky about that. But the water was up to here in my house.
Yeah.
Like that was. Tide wise, it was enough, but like storm wise, we got really lucky. Like Long Island got probably way worse than we did. I don't know actually.
But just to get back to your story, you were from.
I'm sorry, I can't have a linear
No.
conversation for my life.
No. There's no. It's fine. I can't either. I can barely think. But the air that you had at your place, Rockaway.
Rockaway, yeah.
Is it Rockaway or Rockaway?
Rockaway.
Rockaway.
Yeah, Rockaway. Rockaway Beach. Yep.
And the Long Island is the same air. And so when I would leave Manhattan and go to that beachy part of New York, it was beautiful.
Oh yeah, or Coney Island. Coney Island's beautiful too. A little too touristy, but like again, like you walk on that boardwalk, man, it's
in the 80s. Coney Island was not so touristy. I mean, it was touristy, but it wasn't very.
But
pretty.
it was a different kind of
Yeah,
and you know, and want to be there for a different reason.
Like
yeah,
42nd Street when I was there, you could walk down the street and there's hustlers all the way around.
Yeah, different worlds. Yeah.
Now there is Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse.
And I'd much rather be walking around Coney Island or 42nd Street back then than now. Way more. Like it's just come on.
Yeah, I left just around the time it was getting to be very commercial, which is the way Hollywood Boulevard is now. If you ever go over there.
Well, I haven't, but I've heard it is, and I moved to Austin and watched it turn into LA for 3 years. And, and then
I loved Austin. We had a film.
Oh, Austin's great.
That,
It's a great
we
city.
showed at the film festival there. What is that one called? It's a huge festival every year.
I know what you're talking about.
See, you can't think linearly, and I can't think at all.
The
No.
Nah, whatever.
Anyway, doesn't matter.
South
I
by
loved
Southwest.
Austin. South by Southwest. Yeah.
Yes.
I had the best time there.
Oh, I
you
bet.
know?
Yeah, people absolutely love that.
Walk
And-
anywhere around there, and there's so much debauchery there during that festival.
That is that's
People are lying on the ground in the streets of the city, and there's so many people.
they're from all over the place for that city for that specific festival. I mean, it happens all year, but for that one especially, people are from all over the world.
Well,
They're
there's
like
the music
great.
festival and the film festival.
Well, that South by
and-
Southwest is a grouping. It's music, comedy. It's a bunch of it's also next to a bunch of other events that they have too. It's a big thing for Austin. Everybody gets super excited or super pissed when it happens because some of the
You don't want the tourists there, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the
you
old,
don't want the drunk folk in the street.
yeah. Well, that's the other thing about that city is a lot of people who are still like holding their ground. Like there's a guy. It's like a condo here that's 50 stories. Condo here that's 75 stories. Right here is going to be the tallest building in Texas. They're building it right now.
Yeah.
And then right here is another like 40 or 50 story building, right? Right here, right in the middle of all this is this one guy's house.
Yeah.
With his yard and his beat up truck that hasn't run since 75.
Yeah.
And it's sitting in his yard next to his dead dog and whatever else is in his yard. He is not selling that fucking place.
Yeah.
And he's getting offered God knows how much money for that place because his spot is on a corner where they could be building 1, 2, 3, at least 4 more buildings. Mm-hmm. That city has got to be like hounding him with offers and whatever else, and he's like, "You can offer me all the money in the fucking world, like I'm not moving in my this is my house."
How does he get past the eminent domain kind of
Who knows?
situation?
Who knows? There's a couple of those in Austin where you could just. I met somebody who knew somebody like that, so I know that these guys are real. It wasn't just an assumption, but like you could literally just tell by their yard that the city can go fuck themselves, and they'll do whatever they need to do, whether it's illegal or not. They're not going to have a skyscraper built on their grandfather's property. Like that's just not happening.
My mom did that. My mom did that with her mom's property in Colorado. Right north of the New Mexican border. She had they were widening the road to make it a freeway, and she bled to death to fight to save that. And in the end, the city redirected traffic, so they created all these one-way streets to go around the house that my grandmother used to own.
Yeah, that's the kind of person I'm talking about, where they're like, no, you guys can do whatever you need to do. I'll be here.
I'm like that too. I have.
If there's a reason,
yeah,
I totally get it. That's
But I'd love to see that place. I'm going to go back to Austin and just look for that address. It's worth the trip to see something like that, right?
Austin is unbelievable, and that house I'm even talking that specific house I'm talking about. If you do go to Austin, I'll tell you where it is. It's right on. Well, you're not gonna remember, but I'll tell you where it is. It's right on whatever that is. It's First Street on downtown, and it's right next to the IHOP, and it's wild. It's like its own world. It looks like an installation because of all the buildings and stuff. It looks like some kind of like art installation. It's kind of.
Where do you live now, Philip?
I live in back in Hamilton.
Hamilton is.
It's in Howard Beach, Queens.
Oh.
Yeah.
Near where your other home was?
That is like on the same corner. I'm living in my grandfather's house right now.
Ah.
Yeah. I was living with him when he passed, and now I'm taking care of the property until they sell it.
Yeah.
So basically, my family's taking care of me by letting me have a job taking care of the property.
Well, that's a big job.
It's great. I feel very lucky. That's that's.
Your grandfather was a fireman.
For I forget how many years. Yeah, he was.
Was he? How did the whole 9/11 thing? How let's lift this up.
Oh yeah.
Did he have friends in that department, or knew a lot of folk?
He did. I don't know if he had any close friends that died. I don't think so. He knew a lot of people who had friends that were in the towers when they fell because they were working right there or whatever. And every company went, obviously, every single one in the city, probably. But he didn't like talking about it. It was really
who does?
That was a rough.
I was a fool to bring it up.
No, it's fine. No, you kidding me?
Your dad. I always think of your dad as your brother because when I knew
you kept calling him my brother. Yeah.
When I knew your dad, he was 10 years younger than you are now.
Right.
So I think of Philip like.
And we got a head transplant too, so that helps.
But he always tells a story. Each 9/11, he retells a story about a woman who I think was your babysitter.
Yeah.
Who was in the...
She was working in the
towers. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't kept in touch with her or anything like that, but she was like my babysitter, my main babysitter for a long time. She lived up the block from us. Susie Santos.
Yeah.
That was a weird... it was weird because that was the only person that we knew that was attached to that at all.
Yeah.
We knew people that were downtown that got affected by the debris and stuff like that, but that was a different thing. That was the other thing my grandfather hated is like the city they just shit on all those, especially like the firemen and stuff. They got inhaled all that crazy stuff that the buildings were made of.
And
they waited until there was enough lawsuit, then they did something, and they just fucked them.
But didn't they realize that all that asbestos or whatever was in those buildings that they were breathing in was going to cause I guess.
Oh, you mean the
not.
firemen themselves?
The people of downtown.
They weren't thinking about
NYC.
it.
I know.
They weren't. Yeah, the building just fell down. They weren't thinking about it at all.
But
That
I mean,
was, yeah.
over time, because that was in the air for a long time.
After a while, it did become. People became conscious of like, wow, this might be horrible. Like, but only after a time. Like, people were just trying to get through their day. Like, they were just trying to get whatever it was, clean their street or whatever they were doing.
Survival.
It was there. I'm sure it was there before it was in the general population's topic too. Like, people were talking about it, but that even took a while. Like, it was not. If it did come up at first, some people in the room would be like, how bad could it be? Like, that's how it was. That's kind of how New York is, where half the people in the room are going to be like, oh, asbestos, get the fuck out of here. Like, and that's how my grandfather was. Yeah. I have a lot of toxins in me because of how, if I wanted to put on a mask or something, my grandfather, he wouldn't tell me not to, but he'd be like, oh, I need a mask, huh? Like, and then he'd like keep mentioning that I need, like, oh, yeah, good thing you got that mask on. I'd be like coughing with a mask on. Good thing you got that mask on. Mm-hmm. He was a jerk, but he was. It was all about making me tougher, which I definitely needed to be. But like that kind of thing, yeah. The people thought about it too late, or didn't want to think about it right away because it's scary, or they just didn't know. They're just ignorant to it, which is probably a good portion of people. Like, it's dust.
Yeah.
It's even asbestos. Like, what's asbestos? Like, you know what I mean? Like, nowadays they ask
little
something.
Curly white things that breathe in.
Well, it's like
and they land in your lungs, and then it grows.
And it's not used anymore, right?
No.
It's not been used for a long time because of what it is. But like, because of that, I'm sure a lot of people don't even know not only how bad it is, but like they don't know what it is or what it's used for at all. Like, why? How would you?
Right.
We had all that stuff in the boatyard. That's the only reason I knew about it. It was asbestos, and what was that stuff that they treated wood with? Oh, it's also poisonous. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like a tar, and they would do it for the docks. It stopped wood from rotting in the water.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
You know what I'm talking about? I forgot the name of it, but yeah, that
is
stuff.
It called tar?
No. They use tar as well for like coating and stuff like that. But
right.
I forget what that stuff's called. But that stuff's. Grandfather's very adamant about which logs you burn, because half this stuff he wasn't supposed to be using it anymore. It was supposed to be thrown out 40 years ago.
Yeah,
like it was all poisonous. Just saw it. You want to put a mask on? Go put a mask on. All right. Yeah. Anyway. I got a couple questions for you that
you do.
Because I'm
how fast does
I'm just kind of rambling, so
run?
I'm sorry. What?
How fast does a cheetah run? Is that a question?
Do you know the answer?
I don't know, but I would say 62 miles an hour.
There we go, folks. 62 miles an hour. You heard it here first. I don't know if that's true, so I'm not going to give you any kind of.
When you're doing your stand-up, do you use notes? Or
yeah,
I've seen people use their phones.
No, I have to use notes. I'm not right now, especially my memories. My recall memory is spotty, and so I use my notes sparingly. Have them with me to reference if I can, because especially in the stand-up world, like it's not looked at like it's like what you can't remember 5 minutes of dialogue, and to a certain extent they have a point. But no, I can't right now because I'm not focused on the dialogue. I can memorize the dialogue, or I can memorize what I have to do during the dialogue, morphing them together and then reacting to the crowd and then improving to hecklers and all this stuff. I'm not, I was going to say I'm not sharp enough. I'm more like a butter knife right now. I'm like, I'm slowly filing away. I'll be able to do it eventually, but right now I need to have the thing right here.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Like in fact, when I went to Austin, I was gonna be the only guy who always had their paper with them, and I was gonna make that a thing. And somebody did it. Like it was so fucking. I was so pissed off about that. Like that month that I got there, this other guy who did it for the same exact reason. He had bad recall, you know, all that stuff. Not only did he like become popular, he became like one of the most popular people in the city. And so that role was just totally gone. I wanted to be the only person anyone knew, because people would do it, you know, but they would do it out of necessity. It wasn't like part of their act.
Yeah.
This was part of his act, and it was going to be part of my swag. But I was like, oh man,
that's a good part. That's a good gimmick. I like it.
Well, it works, and he made it work
because you can kind of sort through the pages and play the whole like, damn, and then say the joke backwards. And
Yep. And I've seen people do a funny thing where this isn't their act for their whole, you know, their life, but when they're working on jokes, they'll have their book with them, and they'll make crossing off the joke a joke every time, whether it works or not works. They'll make that a joke too, and it's just easy laughs. It's just like it works so well to see somebody frustrated, or the opposite of like, oh wow, this one, let's circle that one, blah blah blah. People love that kind of stuff, and I wanted to do that so bad. But again, I saw him do it. I was like, well, my goal was to be the only person. This guy's, and he is. This guy's name is William Montgomery, or he was on the Kill Tony show, and he became a regular. And he was like that. A couple months later, he was working in Madison Square Garden with those guys. Like, that's how popular he became that fast. He was always in there. He was working with them since L.A. when they were in the Comedy Store, but he never gained a crowd really until he got to Austin. People fucking loved him in Austin. And he's great. He's very funny.
Are you doing an open mic while you're here?
I was going to try to.
What happened?
I couldn't find any that were close enough and at the right times the first night I was here. Yesterday I was visiting my friend. Today this happened. This was happening. But it happened the way it happened. So maybe I'll go do one tonight if I can find one. I'm really bad at looking them up, so I'm going to do my best to find one. But if I do, I'm going to go to one tonight, because tomorrow I probably won't have any. Or no, actually, I'm going to look tomorrow as well. I'll have some time before I get to the airport. I want to be able to do it if I can, but I'm not going to force it. I don't want to like go out of my way, and it's also like you go out to an open mic, you spend money at the bar and stuff like that, and I'm not going to do that if I can help it as well. Like I say, if it works out, great. If not, whatever. So I got a question regarding just the idea of comedy as a what?
Comedy.
Oh,
let's hear the question. I'd love to see how I can spout out.
Well, you're an artist, and you care about art. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a movie called I Heart Huckabees?
Yeah.
Do you remember it at all?
Now listen, you have to remember, I talk in sort of like metaphors and pictures.
That's fine. I do the same thing.
I have to remember who this character is. But is it the one of the wait? No. Tell me. Give me the plot.
Okay, so guy's having an kind of like an existential problem in his life. He's got a coincidence that he thinks is more than a coincidence. He keeps seeing this one guy, and he thinks it means something. So he goes to these people who label their company as existential detectives, and they figure out what's happening in your cosmic life, and they report on it for you.
And who's in it?
Okay, so Mark Wahlberg is one of the main characters that's having the existential problem. His other in the movie, the guy who's got the problem, I forgot his name, but he was in like Rushmore. Do you remember that movie Rushmore?
Yeah.
He was in
I knew him when he was
the
a kid.
Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah.
That guy is very funny. I forgot his name. Jason something.
His father was a producer. His mother's the actress from the boxing film. What was that boxing film?
I don't know, but you know who I'm talking about.
Adrian.
That's was that his mother? Yeah. Oh, okay.
And so his grandfather or his uncle is the filmmaker.
Oh, okay.
Whose names I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know his.
Can we edit this out? Or add in the names of the people as we go?
That guy.
But yeah, so
you know who I'm talking about. He's the main character. So Dustin Hoffman plays one of the existential detectives, and his wife, I don't remember her name either, but anyway, who else is in it here? Actually, I'm just going to pull up.
So what's the question?
Oh,
Well, you.
So
while
no,
you pull it up.
you have to kind of remember the movie. That's why I was asking if you remembered it at all.
Let's see if we can find another.
Well, if you're
movie.
asking who was in it, you probably don't remember it very well. So forget this question.
It's been a long time,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter. It's fine.
I love the title.
If you have a night and you're looking for something to watch, it's a very good movie, especially for artists. It describes the dreamlike nature of reality very well. But it also describes the scientific textile, very structured nature of reality just as well. And those are the two existential detectives. One is on a chaos theory, he's talking about infinity and stuff like that. And then the other one's all about science and structure, and she's trying to figure out the facts.
Yeah.
And they're the perfect pairing for somebody's cosmic problem, because if you look at it like a regular detective, well, you're not going to get anywhere. That's their sales pitch is you don't need a regular detective, you need us. We're out there.
Yeah.
We're it's a good movie for artists though, because what it talks about is three things: your reason for being here, whether that reason means anything, and whether, if that reason means anything. Those three things.
Yeah.
And then puts them right in front of you and lets you look at them and decide which one you want to look at. But the beautiful thing about this movie is a lot of movies do that. This movie, I've never seen a movie do this. As a metaphor, let's say it's usually movies like that give you these three options. That's your three ways of looking at life right here. What's it? The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. You ever see that Terry Gilliam movie? That movie does that very well, where it goes, here's these three options for life, and it puts them right in front of you. This movie, though, this I Heart Huckabees, it puts them in front of you, and it does something that other movies don't do. It says, hey, maybe don't look at those three options as three options. Maybe look at it as somebody's hand holding up three options.
Yeah.
And maybe look at the person and who they are holding up their hand, as opposed to these three things.
It's like the Trinity there of God and God.
That's exactly what
You're
that
God,
story
and
is.
Three fingers are the Trinity.
See, but this is where it's going. It's other movies. It describes that Trinity, and it describes that spectrum, and then it leaves it at that, because that's mysterious, and that's how you make it. The Matrix did that very well. It was just here's the. And now they're trying to do what I Heart Huckabees is doing. It was doing with these. Have you seen the new bad Matrix movies?
I haven't. Yeah.
The fourth one was. Did you ever see the first one?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Those films are very difficult for me to completely follow.
Well,
Eventually,
they're hard to.
but they're beautiful to watch.
No, well, that's the. If anything, they're beautiful to watch, and the second two, for 2 and 3. They're only beautiful to watch. They're impossible to follow. In fact, one of the characters, the architect, his lines are it sounds like they made him purposefully impossible to follow. The guy's talking gibberish, basically. It's crazy. And they're really bad movies. The fourth one, though, the one that just came, it was, a lot of people think it was made on purpose as a bad movie.
Yeah.
By the Wachowski sisters. Because the company made them make it, and so they were like, all right, we'll make you a fucking movie. The movie's all about, it's them as Neo in the movie. He's making a video game called The Matrix, and he can't get it right, and it's all going wrong, and it's Morpheus is in it, but he's played by a different character. It's not Lawrence Fishburne, and the bad guy, the main agent's in it, but it's not played by Hugo Weaving. And it wasn't those characters that had any value. It was Hugo Weaving and Lawrence Fishburne that did it. And having them in it at all is made fun of in the movie. It's yeah, we had to have this character in here. Who cares if it's a different guy? And one of them says, he's like, I like to look different. And it's made like a joke. And a lot of people think the Wachowski sisters were like, fuck you guys. Yeah, we'll give you a movie. None of our fans are going to like it, though. And we're going to make sure that people realize that this was a money grab, and we're just making money. Like that's what people think, and I kind of agree. That's a very interesting. But they're coming out with another one, and I think that's going to be that kind of
fifth one.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do that where this last one was not taking it seriously and kind of made it like a farce. And I think this one's going to take that farce seriously, like this movie did. I'm sorry to go in that big circle, but I Heart Huckabees was like a farce movie that was taken seriously. And it was like, look at the jumble that is this chaos. Look at that jumble. Just step back just a little bit and see if it's as jumbled as you thought. And then take another step back. The farther you step back, the less jumbled that thing is going to get. Obviously, if you step back far enough, you're not going to see it anymore, though. And that's the big joke in the movie. It's like they're sitting in there. It's a drug reference in the movie. They're sitting there with one of those balls for exercise. You hold the handle and you bounce on it, and they turn into a kid's toy too. They have that thing. They're like hitting themselves in the head and like making themselves like zone out and like get all like delirious. And they're like, do it again. Wow, it works. Yeah, you stop thinking. It's great. And the other guy's like, yeah, we figured it out. We just got to do this all day, every day. And the woman who's like their guru is like, nope, you can't indulge too much. You're gonna, blah blah blah. And they're like, fuck you. We're gonna do the ball thing all day long, every day. And it's a great drug joke in the movie. And I forgot why I even mentioned it, but that's a really good art movie, but it's emphasis on why comedy is important. That's why I mentioned it. Again, I'm sorry for that run on. But speaking of comedy, did you ever see the show Horace and Pete?
Who and Pete?
Horace and Pete.
Sounds like a cartoon series.
No, it does sound like that. No, it was Louis C.K., the stand-up comedian. He made like a serious version of Cheers. Very interesting. Very. I talked about it on my last show, so I'll tell you about it off the.
Tell me about
camera.
it now, because comedy is definitely your thing. What
I mean is on my last episode I talked about it.
Yeah. You did.
Specifically, so I'll tell you off camera, but
Okay.
It's just we'll move on to the next one but that's one of the best shows I've ever seen by far. Steve Buscemi's in it. He plays the brother. He's mentally ill and he's unbelievable. I think thinking about his role is rough because he really does it well. And he also plays his father in it. He plays his really maniacal father, and he's just so good. Steve Buscemi and Louis C.K., phenomenal acting. You would never expect it. The guy is a great actor. Did you see American Hustle? See that movie?
No.
No, that was a good movie in general, but he was great in it. Him and Bradley Cooper go back and forth like butter. They're just like, it's so funny too. And all of half their lines were improv. They're the best lines in the whole movie. It's this thing where Louis C.K. is trying to tell him an ice fishing story from his past to tell him to teach him a lesson. And Bradley Cooper's all like coked out and like wants to get out of the room. So he's like, just tell me the fucking ice story, fish. Like, just I don't want to hear the story. Just tell me the end of it. Tell me and Louis C.K.'s like, not if you're gonna act like that, young man. Like, it's this weird father-son dynamic that they play off of it so well. They're so funny in that movie. That's I got to stop talking about movies though, because I'll throw 19 trillion movies that you got to watch, and you're not going to watch any of them.
I'll watch them. I haven't been watching many movies lately. I've been writing a lot and reading some, and I made a few movies.
Tell me about the one you're making right now. That's what's happening with that.
It's not a comedy.
No, it didn't sound like it.
It's called Earth.
Yeah.
Earth, or the Monster of Tierra Maria, which is.
And tell me about the backstory first, because
backstory?
You
Meaning the history of the story.
Well, so you gave me when you first brought it to me, you were telling me about its kind of a depiction of your family history, right?
Well,
right?
I write a lot
misremembering that? Or?
No, it's true. So I have a body of work called The Abduction of Hernan Cortez, which follows the lives of these 5 New Mexican families from 1598 to present time. And so this is one of the works in that body of work, and it
Okay.
takes place in 1911 in New Mexico. But other works that you have seen from that same body of work is one called My Alien Abduction.
Oh, yes, right.
So in the body of work,
That's
there are
one
these
of the 5.
characters
Okay.
that kind of live in there, and one character in the story is this artist who actually created the artwork that you see. So
Right, okay.
it's not like I created the work. The artist from this family line created the work, and they had a real gallery showing of
Right.
the work. And
Yeah.
so because I'm not really wasn't really a visual artist, I became a visual artist when I was working with a woman named Maria Irene Fornes, who's a playwright.
Okay.
She's a great American playwright.
Was that who you were telling me about yesterday? The person you started that like taught you for
Right.
years, like that.
She taught me how to learn.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. You were telling me about her
I had come out of a master's program and was in New York City and had written a play with your brother, your
My
father.
father, yes.
And I submitted the one-person show that I had written to her for acceptance into to serve as a resident playwright at this off-Broadway theater in New York, and she called me in for an interview, and ultimately, she told me the reason she hired me is because the work had an improvisational feel about it, but she also liked my starched white shirt.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So I was with a group of 6 people in New York City writing plays for an off-Broadway theater, and some of them were okay. I mean, I loved my work, but it took some time to really develop some of the works that I did. So the body of work came from my relationship with this woman,
Okay.
Maria Irene Fornes, who. She's a magnificent woman. She's my mentor, and she taught me how to access, as we talked about before, the collective unconscious and to scribe what was happening up there.
To let it come through. Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the things that I learned is when you get in the way of that or you manipulate it, it sort of becomes thwarted and not so interesting. But if you just become the scribe to the stories that you're telling, they become very beautiful for my taste, and it's a process that Carl Jung has a practice that helps one develop a conversation with the collective. So it's called active imagination, where you have a conversation with the consciousness around you. So really you get into a place where you just stop and you listen, and then you in the processes with Irene, you imagine a room, or you imagine the source of light, and then you just sit there, and then eventually your imagination starts to activate these individuals or things or people that have some reference to your life, or personally, or that have affected you somehow, and they'll walk through the room, and then you watch them, and you just you scribe what you see rather than manipulate them.
Right.
But sometimes in that process they'll stay still and nothing will happen, so you're urged to become active with the imagination.
You push it,
and then kind of toss something in, like a line, and then they'll respond to that line, and then there's a dialogue back and forth, and then you describe who each of those people are, and then they become these real live people.
This sounds not exactly, but it sounds very similar to transcendental meditation. Do you ever look into that at all?
I'm not a good meditator.
It
I'm
sounds
too
very
active
familiar
in terms
to
of,
that kind of you letting yourself go into this world and letting it move around you, as opposed to manipulating it. Like, that whole thing is very similar.
But I feel that transcendental meditation means that you get out of the way completely. But as in the active imagination, or the journey that I was talking about, you have to
you're there.
assert yourself.
Yeah,
you actually have to step in sometimes and get them moving around.
Well, right. You're in that version of it. You're part of the story. Transcendental meditation is more like a viewing of like a movie, kind of like. But it's a similar kind of process of like, the more you manipulate the thing, the less what you're going for is going to happen. Like, you kind of have to just let it flow.
So being transcendental is not my thing, because I definitely always feel when I'm not doing anything that I'm wasting my time.
Okay.
Though I know it's a place of
No,
to get
no,
there. Can you
I get
imagine
that.
just being there without a single thought?
Well,
I would love it.
I can because I've come very close to having no thought because of practice meditation myself, but not transcendental meditation. But I have the same idea behind it, where it's a very exhausting process for me, because thinking about doing nothing is thinking about it's like, why would I do?
Well, you're already doing
what's going on?
something.
What's going? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I get in my way usually with meditation. I think about the fact that I'm trying to think about nothing. And that's the circle I get in. So it's hard for me, but I that's why I practice it eventually. My friend told me, is like, if that's something you specifically have a struggle with, it might help you to work on that specific thing, not for the even benefit of the meditation, for the personal struggle of getting your brain like working it out as a muscle, being like, oh, you're not able to do this thing. Okay, fine. Well, maybe figure out a way to do it. Like, in fact, one of the things I was going to talk about with the other interview was the idea of I've been very, very difficult for me to do two things with my hands separately. Like, I feel like it's impossible. So I've never tried to learn the guitar or piano specifically.
Oh, you mean one hand doing one thing?
Yeah,
and the other
yeah,
hand
two
doing
different
the other?
things with the.
Yeah.
So guitar and piano are the two instruments that I always wanted to really learn to play, but I never tried because I thought it was so impossible for me. And my friend he started to learn piano, and he has the same problem as I do. But he started to learn it, and I realized maybe it was just one of those where I was just like, just fear keeping me away from even the potential of being able to do it, because I never worked for, maybe it'll take a year, maybe it'll take 2 years before I'm able to do it. But then, I might actually, and I'm considering doing that and taking like piano lessons, because being able to play the piano seems so, it's like magical or something to me. I don't know what it is. There's that ability to, it's like a baseline for music in general. You can like incorporate it into anything, and you can play off of anything with the piano.
Yeah.
It's very versatile.
It's so beautiful, and to watch it, it conveys some kind of elegance and intelligence.
Yeah, even visually,
and,
yeah. No, there's something
and a
about
relationship to music that I used to. I mean, I took lessons, and I never was solid enough, disciplined enough to stick with it. But yeah, I always wanted to.
Yeah, I might
play.
do that.
And I also tried the violin as well. Yeah, and guitar, I just, again, I couldn't get those fingers and working.
It seems very, very hard.
It had something to do with the way I couldn't get my wrist to twist. Anyway, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. No, but that's all I was saying about it. It's just an interesting kind of, limiting your own potential is very easy. That's why I came and did this in LA, because I was tired of.
But don't we do things that we're good at or want to do? And so if we aren't that great at something, can we be distracted? Though at a certain age, like when I was like in 6th grade, I loved singing and I had a beautiful voice. And then because it wasn't cool, I stopped and went into study hall, and I was with a bunch of hoodlums. And I realized later that had I stuck with the music, I'd be able to carry a tune. So when I went to the conservatory, I could be a musical comedy star, but it never happened because at that crucial age where I was learning and able to hear music and sing, I stopped.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things about that. Yeah, we do things we love to do and that we're good at.
Yeah.
And then some people can guide us into these places where we can find a new source of information and become really great at. But I don't think I would have ever been a good guitar player just because my wrist didn't go in the right direction.
Well, it's funny, specifically with guitar, I've seen so many people play the guitar in different ways because of things like that, where they can't get this part of it is impossible for them. I've seen people play like this. Yeah. Where they play literally like on a table and they just play like that.
I've seen that too, yeah.
Seen people play the guy from Tenacious D plays weird. and I think literally because he's fat, and he has to prop the guitar up on his stomach, but he plays. It's hard to describe, but it's different than a lot of people play. It's very there's a lot of structure and improv in it, and it's very, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it looks different than a lot of people playing, and it's this, like, his hands are moving much different. They're not moving at the shoulders, they're like moving at the wrists, and he plays it like this. It's weird. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
But he's one of the best guitar players you ever see. He's like unbelievable at it, but it looks odd. It's you say that you always wanted to learn the guitar. Do you play any instruments at all? Like, is it a...
Not now. No. I sit at the piano sometimes and just kind of mock the keys and play it because it's kind of fun.
Sure.
But I don't. No.
No.
I sort of draw and I paint and I do graphic art. I'm not graphic art. Digital.
I see. It's you mainly make digital art, right? Like, how much drawing compared to digital art do you do?
Well,
or is it just hard for me to?
It's a combination of imagery and photography, and like I'll do an oil pastel, and then I'll have photographs, and then I mix them all together.
Oh, that's why it's so okay. I couldn't tell which was which, and that's why. Okay.
Well, if you look
that makes sense.
If you look at some of the My Alien Abduction stuff, they started out as pencil drawings, and then I did a little watercolor on them, and then I photographed them, and then I started to build onto them because digitally you can manipulate things more easily.
Sure. Yeah.
And it wasn't so messy because I was doing oil paints and I was doing other paints, and like oil in my apartment just started to smell, and I had a studio eventually, but I just wanted less.
Half of my stuff was covered in paint just because I got tired of everything gets messy. Like, I was just, you know what, fuck it. Painting is very, very frustrating in that way.
And I'd love it, and I could do it if I had a big, huge space.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You end up having to have a space dedicated to that, or else it's hard to do it because you have to. Every time you pull it out, it's like, all right, now I got to cover everything. I got to do this. It is very frustrating. I never got into the digital side of it though, but you make really hard to pin down artwork, which is, in my eyes, it's really cool stuff because you can't really. Whatever it's called when you're drawing actual objects. What's that called?
Sketching, model drawing, figure drawing.
Figure drawing is a version of what I'm talking about.
Well, look at if you visit my site, go to figure drawing, and you'll see my figure drawing. It's taken me years and years and years to learn how to do figure drawing.
I've seen some of that as well. I just mean when you're drawing an actual object, figure drawing is one of them. But when you're doing that kind of stuff as an artist, a lot of times you're just depicting it as it is.
Yeah, and that's a good practice.
And no, it's great. But I just see a lot of the opposite in your work, where you're describing something that doesn't have a description, and you're kind of, it's more like you're like pointing to everybody at something in the sky, as opposed to something on the table, where you're, that's good artwork in my eyes.
Thank you. The only reason I do work is because I have a compulsion to organize and to create balance. And so when I learned to do the layers on in digital work, there's like sometimes the files are so big that the computer can't handle them because there's layer upon layer upon layer.
Oh, wow.
And then what I do is I just keep moving it, and I can't walk away until it's balanced somehow. And then
I wish I had that.
You don't.
I think you do have that. Well, no. I wish I had it as like a compulsion.
It is a compulsion.
That sounds very handy as a compulsion. I don't know.
It
might be frustrating.
I'm not compulsive about the work I do in my home, for example. You were in my home. I have a lot of things.
Seems pretty balanced, though.
But yes, it is balanced, because if I have this over here, something has to be over there, or else I sit in the apartment. And
you had a lot of stuff in there, but it was movable. You could move around in there. That's, in my eyes, that's somebody who's paying attention to the balance of you're aware of the fact that you have a smaller space than you have stuff, but you want to live there. You don't want to be one of these people who just ends up like this, because who wants to live like that?
And I'm close to that age. I am in that age. Actually, I have to pretend I'm not, because Otherwise, I shrink into that little skinny, small, twisted body as an
Well,
old person.
I just meant physically, like not having
physically.
room to move around in your house.
Yeah,
like that
because
kind of
as
thing.
you get
Yeah.
older, you just keep adding more things.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing, you know. After years and years and years, you just look around and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
where did all this crap come from?
Oh, yeah.
I wish I was a minimalist. Because in my
That sounds so. My brother's like that. I'm like so envious. It's like
I really am a minimalist. I just don't have enough space. Really?
I thought you were joking.
See,
That's
I
thought
wrote a
that
joke.
was, yeah.
I'm a minimalist. No. That's a good joke.
That's funny. Yeah.
Well, it's not. It's good.
Sorry, hey Mateo. How long have we been recording?
A long time.
Hour and 15. All right. You know what? Let's just let's cut it off here. Thank you for talking with me. I appreciate it. Is there anything? I don't have really that much of a following or anything, but is there anything that you want to promote for the film or for your performance space at all or anything like that?
Yeah. I love promoting. So
yeah,
you
please.
can go to my site.
Okay, what's the site?
LeoGarcia.com.
Okay, and that-
LeoGarcia.com.
Okay, all right.
And there you'll find all the connections to like myalienabduction.net and earthbyleo.com.
Okay.
But just go to leogarcia.com.
All right.
And then I have a space called Highways,
Right.
Performance Space and Gallery.
Right, and what's the website for that one? Because that's a really interesting spot that people, especially in Southern California, they would love to check out. That's a really cool spot.
Highwaysperformance.org. HIGHWAYS performance.
All right.
.org.
All right, I'll put a link up to it. That's that. I mean, I had seen pictures of it, but being walking through it and stuff, it's the kind of place I would like to put a play on. You know, like it's as opposed to most spaces. Like it's got personality. You know, that's a really. You can tell you guys care about it.
We love it.
Yeah, and your team. Like how long have you been working with that team?
My artistic director his name is Patrick Kennelly, and you can go to see his work at patrickkennelly.com. He's also a director. We work as directors and producer, and I write and he writes, and he directs and I direct, and so we have several films together. He's directing my film Earth.
Okay.
I produced his film Excess Flesh.
Right. I remember you put that one out.
And produced others of his work.
Okay.
And we've produced a beautiful play that he has called Patty the Musical.
Okay.
Which follows the lives of actually Patty Duke and Patty Hearst. It's a very strange, beautiful musical. But I've worked with him for 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
He started out as an intern with me, and
cool.
Now he's 40 years old.
Okay. No, that's great. That I mean, that's the kind of team you want. That's you know each other, and that's
He's a magnificent human being.
that's great.
It's actually the reason I'm still working, because he's young and he comes from Cal Arts, so he has a master's degree in I think he got his directing degree from UCLA and an undergrad from Cal Arts, which are both really fine schools. And his mind is he reminds me of you, actually.
Okay.
You know, very original. I think of you as a very original artist.
Thank you. I take that as a high compliment.
Well, listen, I own one of your pieces of work, and the world needs to know.
Thank you for buying
that
it. I appreciate it.
You're a bit of a genius.
No,
when it comes to visual
thank
art.
you. That's a bit much, but
No,
fact
stop,
that you
stop,
appreciate
stop.
my work, that's really great. That's
It's because
thank
it's
you.
magnificent. It talk about being connected to the great collective. Your work is very rich.
Like my like if life is a road you're walking down, I stepped off the road and my foot stuck into that like collective or whatever you want to call it, and my shoe's still back there.
Yeah.
And I'm walking now with a no shoe. That's how I look at my life. Where I'm
But
like,
that's great, because
it's
I
still
got the
there.
shoe and you still have that
well,
beautiful bare foot.
But I feel still. What's great about it is after a while, now I feel like I have a shoe on.
Oh, good. You got another pair.
No.
A new
I
shoe.
just have callus probably on the bottom of my foot. I'm just like, oh, fine, everything's fine. But I remember where that shoe is, and every time I go back there, I come up with a piece of artwork that I'm actually happy with, and it happens very rarely. But I'm really happy I'm gonna make one recently because of where this started.
What is that?
This is a depiction of a kind of a bad dream I had, but it wasn't a bad dream. It was like it felt like I felt like I was on like acid or something, and I was having like a psychedelic trip. But I fell through. I was laying on my bed and I was dreaming.
Yeah.
But I was half awake, and I looked at my closet door, and it was sideways, and I fell through it like I was falling through doorway after doorway after doorway, and I was falling forward, but I was laying on my side, so gravity went away. I knew I was dreaming. It wasn't like I was like, but I was so conscious. I was like half asleep. It was so hard to describe, and I ended up doing a drawing of it that I want to put in front of behind a tank of water, and and put plants in it. And the cleaner you keep the water in the tank, the better you can see the picture, and the picture will change the dirtier the tank gets. And like it's like a depiction of this like really weird dream I had. But anyway, I'm sorry for going off on another story.
No, that's
LeoGarcia.com.
LeoGarcia.com.
And what's the highways one?
Highwaysperformance.org.
Highwaysperformance.org. And thank you again for coming in. I really appreciate it, because this was kind of impromptu. But
Yeah, no, sure. I appreciate it. I'm glad I got to talk to you.
all right. Well, and thank you guys for watching us just ramble on and on. You know, we've covered a lot, but we didn't scratch the surface even of what we could talk about. I'm just gonna end this on a quote from a song that has kept me going lately. It's I don't know if you've been told, but if you keep on dancing, you'll never grow old. So thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mateo. Thank you, man.